My name is Alexis Martinez, and I was born on May 10th, 1950 in Chicago. I don't think it's changed that remarkably since I was a kid, you know, which I really, personally as an advocate, right, I want to start changing that, you know. I want to make sure that a 15 or 16-year-old kid can apply for a school, or you know, an 18-year-old kid can apply for a position in a bank and everything, as what they are, you know. I want to work towards that.
Well, I have a lot of identities. Well, I'd say cutie pock, that'd be the first one. And if that's confusing, it's queer, trans person of color. It's a long acronym, but I think it's adorable. I have a really good work ethic, but I have a lot of anxiety when it comes to just the part of applying. I'm told not to find any reason that would make you less desirable as an employee. I don't think it's undesirable to be trans, but I feel as if society at large has this really big fear or ignorance around it.
I think from my perspective, it was about being exhausted with fear. The fear of accepting who I was. The fear of being... I was just tired of being afraid about somebody learning this about me, and just said, no, this is who I am, and this is how I move on. It's not about bravery. It's about reconciling myself to my life and accepting who I am.
I mean, this is totally a privilege. Like, I have worked exclusively for the past 11 years in academic institutions, specifically academic libraries, which tend to be a liberal environment. So I've never been in a situation where I felt that I could not be out in transition.
Hi, my name is Katie Thomas. I'm a transgender activist in the Chicagoland area. If you look back at ENDA, as was commonly referred to as the ENDA debacle, Congress was preparing to look at the Employment Non-Discrimination Act. There was a lot of support for it. But at the pretty much near the last minute, Barney Frank said it won't pass with gender identity.
And that's very, very frustrating, because that goes fundamentally against everything that we should believe in terms of a country that should openly recognize that these people should be covered under Title VII and equal opportunity.
HRC initially had said we will not support it without gender identity in it, and then realizing they weren't going to get it passed, they said, okay, we'll support it without, hoping to catch up a little bit later, which is much of it was done much like the Civil Rights Act, you know, get it piecemeal rather than the whole thing.
We're clearly being punished for society's inability to accept on the pace that I think we deserve.
Here in Seattle, luckily it's fairly diverse, but just because we have, you can't discriminate against gender, race, etc. Can't pretty much discriminate on anything. And just because of that does not mean that people follow those 100%. I'm not going to come out if it means risking my job, because how am I going to have an income? We live in a capitalist society. I'm screwed if I don't make money.
it's like all the good things that you do, right, start to get eaten away by the hiding, you know, because hiding is very oppressive. But I kept succeeding in work. I mean, because I presented as a male, and you know, I had all these talents, and you know, we were doing like $600,000 a year. You know, I had 19 employees and everything, but I was a mess inside. It was never until I decided just to present as a woman that I started feeling whole. I mean, I've been pretty much broke for several years now, but I've also been happy.
All of these people I love or love working with or care about, I have to potentially lose and risk all of those relationships. Nobody had come out within the sports writing world at that point yet. So it was kind of like, you know, the boys were understandably confused. So at least one person within the company felt very strongly about, like, you know, like, well, then Chris shouldn't be allowed to work here anymore, or shouldn't be allowed to work, you know, like, and the guys, to their credit, said, no, you know what, like, we're gonna make this work. The lesson shouldn't be one that comes from me to other employers. The lesson should be one that other employers should look at companies like ESPN or other employers who employ trans people and have had wonderful experiences with employing trans people.
There's a corporate equality index that HRC puts out every year, and it's very important for the major corporations to have a high rating on that. With the corporate equality index, they added gender identity to it, in the regard that a company has to commit up to $75,000 in medical coverage, be it for either psychiatric care or psychologies, medications, surgeries when necessary. So it's a measure, it's a yardstick, a landmark, it's a yardstick. And it's an important yardstick.
My name is Chanel, and I'm from New York. My mom made it very clear that she was not going to finance my transition at all. And as I told you, I started transitioning at 11 as far as dressing up, and I couldn't seem to think of any other way to make money. I tried bagging groceries, but people just aren't as giving to you when you're a young man dressed in female frocks. My mom just started making it really, really hard. You know, it went from she wasn't going to finance the way I wanted to dress, and then she wasn't feeding me. Like, my mother was refusing me food. She was refusing me toiletries to wash myself. I'm 13, and I didn't know what to do. So I just started prostituting myself at 13.
So I wear a couple of different hats, and you know, those hats involve queer stuff. My being trans probably informs why these trans issues are important. Maybe. Not too long ago, I was a transgender student, and you know, I feel strongly, you know, about faculty and staff supporting trans students.
Helping trans people essentially prepare for how to interview, how to apply for jobs. Those skills, those job skills or life skills, You know, you're not necessarily going to get that out of your high school education. You should have this kind of resource. How do you self-empower trans youth? How do you self-empower young trans or genderqueer folk so that they have a job, they can solve their own housing problems, they can take care of their own career, so that they get to make their own decisions about their lives?